Experienced players are often surprised by just how versatile and relatively nice to fly the humble starter ship can be, and the Mustang Beta looks to muscle in on that action by adding a much needed crew compartment in the back of the ship. But how does that translate into actual performance in the game? I'm Forrester, and in this video I try to answer that question by reviewing the currently flyable Consolidated Outland Mustang Beta, which is described as a pathfinder ship. For those of you who've seen other ship reviews on this channel, the format will be familiar. This video is split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the 3/4 of people watching who still isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might think about it so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. In line with other ships in the Mustang series, entry into the beta is via a ladder on the left or port side of the cockpit canopy. This takes you into the pilot's chair, so far so good. However, if you look around just a little, and in particular look over your right shoulder, you'll see the option to exit to the rear appears. This is a nice unique feature of the beta. At the back of the ship there is a self-contained canopy. Inside this little area there is a sink, a bed and a toilet. The sink is on the right or starboard side, and the bed, which will allow the pilot to log out, is on the left or port side. Thankfully, the little bathroom area at the rear is protected by a small folding door. The Mustang Beta comes armed with a turret on the nose, equipped with 2 size 2 weapons. In stock form, that's M4A lasers. Pilots have the option to purchase and add a size 1 weapon to each wingtip, but you'll need to buy that yourself in-game to add them. Defensively, the Beta carries 2 size 1 shield generators, which is fair for a ship at this size point. It is worth adding that the Beta doesn't have any missile hardpoints, which is a shame from the combat side of things. All in all, the Mustang Beta is not a dedicated combat platform, it's not a high damage fighter, but it's small enough, fast enough, and armed well enough to deal with low threat opponents. And for a starter ship, that feels fair. For the player purely interested in combat, there are other alternatives more suited to the task at this kind of price point, like the Mustang Delta variant or a couple of Aurora variants. In terms of handling, the Mustang Beta feels really quick, although you might not think so to look at some of the stats. With an SCM speed of 188 meters per second and a straight line top speed of 1216 meters per second, the Mustang Beta on paper doesn't seem to be especially fast. But in terms of actual performance, the Mustang does perform fairly well. It does feel a little twitchy, but that's okay. It contributes to making the ship feel faster than it truly is. And the thruster placement seems to help here too. Other than braking from high speeds, which takes a little time, actually it's fairly nippy to move around in the beta. Visibility is also very good, even to the point of being one of the best ships in the game for being able to look around, with a completely clear view out to the sides and above, and a dashboard that blends into more glass up front. Those attributes combined give the Mustang Beta a feel of being fast and easy to fly, which is precisely what you might hope for from a starter ship. The quantum drive is actually fairly appropriate too. It's not the quickest, but the range is fairly decent, able to travel from Crusader to Microtech in a single hop. Again, for a starter ship, that's pretty reasonable. As you might expect, the costs for running the Mustang Beta are also pretty reasonable, and you'd have to work hard to spend more than 3 figures to refuel, rearm or repair. It's also worth adding that the reclaim timer is only 41 seconds, so if you do push too far, it's really no sweat to get back in action pretty soon. In terms of making money with the beta, you have a few options. You can take on combat missions, albeit you probably need to be a little cautious when doing so in order to avoid overextending. In theory, with a bit of patience and a tractor beam, you could also run delivery missions, if you hook up the boxes from inside the cockpit. But then, this is a pathfinder ship, so it's not necessarily designed for making big sums of money with those gameplay loops. Before summarising, there are some loadout changes you might consider for a Mustang Beta. Firstly, adding the 2 size 1 gimbals on the wingtips is an easy upgrade, probably adding the Bulldog repeaters or similar. And upgrading the shields to an FR66 will give a little more survivability. Out with that, the Beta is one of the few ships where I wouldn't change the stock quantum drive. So what do you get with the Mustang Beta? Well, you get a fairly easy to fly ship, with a bed and bathroom for logging out wherever. It can handle itself in low threat environments, and has a pretty reasonable range for a ship of this size. It's also fairly cheap, coming in at 404,000 Alpha UEC in-game, or an out-of-game price of $40 or so. And whilst it isn't a multi-crew ship, if you were happy to pop via the pilot's chair to get in and out, you could in theory get more than one person aboard. So far, so good. But the main challenge with the Mustang Beta is that it's not really great at any of the ways of earning money in-game. Sure, it can earn money, but for example, the Avenger Titan, which is $15 more expensive, can do so much more. That said, and to be fair to the Mustang Beta, it's a pathfinder ship, an explorer ship. It's not the kind of starter ship where you're immediately focused on upgrading to something else. It's more the kind where you can get in and explore the universe, explore the game. And it's okay for that. But I probably suspect that many players would find themselves upgrading from it in fairly short order, just to have more flexibility to experience more of the game. But do you agree? What do you think of the Mustang Beta? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, as it helps me to know what you're finding most helpful. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching.